your host, Shelly Sanders.
Welcome to Conversations with Shelly. My name is Michelle Sanders, and I'm your host for today's conversation. How is everyone doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon? I know we're doing great here in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, of course. I said Tampa Bay because you guys, we are the winners. Yes, the Rays, the Lightnings, and the Bucks, we got it going on here in Tampa, Florida. I am bragging. Yes, I am. You should brag, too, unless it wasn't your team that won. Anyway, listen, I just want to thank everybody for joining us on Conversations with Shelly. I'm excited because we're continuing on our series, Black Men in Tech. And man, over the last couple of weeks, guys, we have brought you some awesome Black men who are doing their thing in the profession, in engineering, in IT, and making a difference and an impact at their jobs, in their homes, and in their community. And so here we go again with another talk about Black men in tech. But in the meantime, before we get started and introduce our guest for today, I would like for you to like, to share, and to subscribe. Yes, I said subscribe because now you can listen to Conversations with Shelly on our YouTube channel. So if you search online and you look for Soul Cafe RM, Soul Cafe RM, and you'll find us out there on YouTube. So you can listen to us on YouTube by subscribing to Soul Cafe RM, or you can come out here to Facebook Live, Soul Cafe RM, or see the replay on Conversations with Shelly page as well on Facebook. So listen, guys, like and share and like and subscribe. Also, remember, the first person who can go out to their social media platforms, all of them out there, there's so many, and type in SCWC, Share Conversations with Shelly. First, you got to share it. Then come back to the comment section and type in SCWC. You will win a prize. So go ahead and like and share and like and subscribe, and invite others to hear this conversation because it's some great information that we are sharing today. So Facebook fam, again, Black Men in Tech, here we go. I'm so excited because this afternoon we have a Floridian that's going to be on the call today with us. And I'll let him share his experience here as far as Florida. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and introduce. We're going to have a part one. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a part two. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce to you guys Mr. Carlo. All righty. So are you guys ready? I am ready. Yes, I am. So hold on one second. Let me get myself together here, and let me pull up his bio, and then we will go from there. Yeah. So again, I hope everybody is doing wonderful. And here we go. Mr. Carlo McDonald. Carlo is a seasoned IT sales professional that works for Cisco Systems Incorporated as a systems engineer. He consults customers on the end-to-end digital transformation of their organization and supports them to drive business outcomes into technical solutions and architectures. Carlo graduated from the University of South Florida, the Bulls, with a degree in computer engineering and is currently a second-year MBA student at North Carolina State University. He earned a few certifications throughout his technical career, with his proudest accomplishment being a CCIE in data center. And you guys know we've been talking about those Cisco certifications, CCNA, CCNP, CCIE. Network associates, network professionals, and internetworking experts. And you have different technologies in the CCIE. And so his particular IE is in data center. Carlo grew up on a military installations as both of his parents served in the United States Air Force. Through his childhood experiences as a military brat, he was able to learn that relationships are invaluable and there is no substitute for hard work. Carlo and his wife, Christina, reside in Cary, North Carolina with their daughter, Caden, and son, Carlo Jr. He enjoys spending time with family, traveling the world, and experiencing new foods and culture. So Facebook fam, please help me welcome, Carlo, as you unmute yourself, Carlo McDonald, to the stage today, to Facebook and to YouTube. Carlo, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Just enjoying the warm North Carolina heat with the kids, playing outside, and just enjoying Sunday, having a good time. And I appreciate you and your fans for having me on today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Good stuff, Carlo. So you're talking about that beautiful weather there in in North Carolina, and I know I was talking to you earlier. I'm sure it reminds you a little bit of Florida. So I'm not going to say, are you a Floridian? So I don't know if you were born and raised in Florida or you moved here because like you said, your parents are, in the military, Air Force. So talk to us a little bit about how you ended up here in Florida.
So I was actually born in Virginia, out at Langley Air Force Base, obviously military installation. Both my sisters were born overseas. So after we left there, we moved to Spain, to Germany, and then we ended up in Arizona and then Florida. And so I spent about 10 years in Florida. I did all my high school and all of my college in Florida, and then moved to a city called Melbourne, Florida, first year out of college. Took a job at a company called Harris Corporation, worked there for a year, and then made my way, I'll say back to Cisco, because I actually did do an internship during the summer of 2008 at Cisco here in the RTP campus in North Carolina.
So you said, so USF, so, you got some fans out there, University of South Florida. So I don't know what what you guys do. What is it that you do when you're from USF, when you see your USF graduate? What do you guys do?
What's interesting is I don't see a lot of them out here, right? And so I was running on the trail the other day, and I saw a guy with a Bulls hat, and I said, "Go Bulls!" And he was just like, "What's going on?" He was shocked and confused because we're a growing population. Obviously, in Florida, when you're in Tampa, you see them on every corner. But out here in North Carolina, I see them maybe once a year. My wife actually went to USF as well, so we keep it a tradition.
So you got to say what, Carlo?
Go Bulls! 100%.
Give it out. Woo, I'm so glad for my production team. I live here, but I didn't know, so she shared it with me. So it's just tremendous, I didn't have to share that with you, but I did. So, Carlo, the other thing you said was interesting. You said Melbourne, Florida. And so I am familiar, definitely have family down in the Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area. And actually my sissy, Juanita Jackson, her father actually works for Harris Corporation. And that's a pretty big company and employs a lot in that area by Cape Canaveral, Space Coast and everything out there. So good stuff. So Carlo, you talked to me a little bit about, you said you have two kids, right? A little girl, Kaden, and a son, Carlo Jr. What are the ages?
Yeah, so my daughter just turned 6 in June, and my son is 3. He'll be 4 in September. So the very active ages. My daughter obviously had to do all of kindergarten virtual because of COVID, right? We're all experiencing the changes that we had to go through in the last year. And so she's really ready to get back in person and actually do, first grade in a classroom and experience that. So I'm excited for her. Next month that'll come, and then the son, he'll be turning 4 and have to get him ready for schooling as well.
Wow, I can't imagine. We had some educators on probably during when I first started the show. Actually, COVID-19 is what ended up having me start the show Conversations with Shelly, because we were here sheltered in, and my friend DJ Eze, we were trying to figure out, like, what can we do to give back to the community? And so my space here is an events and entertainment center where people can rent it out for different intimate events, right? And we would have jazz artists come here, would have performances. We used to do that like once a month, right? And so during the COVID, during the shutdown period, we're like, okay, what can we do to get things out to the community? So we came in, and he plugged in, and we just started doing pajama jam parties on Saturdays and on Sundays, just to get, people out and doing and dancing inside of their home, because people were locked in and going stir crazy. And then we moved to doing basically Party with a Purpose. So then we started doing things where we're supporting different organizations and people could call in and support. And so we just had a good time doing that. And from that time on Sundays, we would do a gospel piece, right? And my friend, he's like, Michelle, you should get on the mic and, do something because you can do that gospel thing. And I was like, no, I'm not a DJ. And so from there, I was like, wow, I had been thinking about Conversation with Shelly. I said, this would be a good time to launch it. And so here we are, over a year later, and we've had some awesome, shows and awesome guests. But I had educators come on during the beginning, maybe the second or third show, and we were talking about the impact of COVID on education. And one was doing elementary, like middle school, and the other adult learning. And so there were a lot of challenges. So I can't imagine what you and your wife dealing with as far as your baby going to kindergarten and having to do that online, just totally, parents becoming teachers, even though we are teachers as parents, but in a whole different light,
Yeah, and to that point, I have to give credit to a couple people, right? Obviously, my wife, to the actual teachers who had to teach virtual and the patience they had to do that, right? I don't know if I could have survived. And we were fortunate enough that our daycare actually agreed to watch the kids that were rising from the daycare into kindergarten and take them in and let them do their virtual learning there. So we were actually able, after about the first month of COVID, after that April 2020, we were able to take both our kids back into daycare, and they were able to get educated and get the help they need day to day and the attention. So we were very fortunate for that.
Good stuff. So, Carlo, let's talk about it. I brought you on because we wanted to talk about Black men in tech, and you are a young Black man doing the thing there at Cisco Systems, and have some experience and expertise. So we just want to talk to you today and want to know your story. And with me, I have questions, of course, that I'm going to be asking you, but I know this is just going to be a conversation that we're having with our Facebook fam and with our YouTube audience as well. And so, Facebook fam, I will say we're going to have a part 1 break, part 2. So if you have any questions about this topic, go ahead and start putting those in the chat window so we can make sure we get to those questions before the end of the program. So, Carlo, first of all, I end up meeting you. Let's talk about that first. I end up meeting you at Cisco through a training program that you and I were for, 100%. And we were selected for that training program because we're Black, right?
That was the rules of the game. Right? Nurture the Black talent.
What'd you say, Carlo?
I said that was the rules of the game, to nurture the Black talent within the company. Yes. Yeah,
nurture the Black talent within the company, and you had to be at Cisco for a period of time had been performing at a certain level, et cetera. And this was a training for 6 months through NGL, Next Generation, they called it at that time, Next Generation Leaders. And as you said, it was a program targeted to leadership programs based on statistical, as it says here, analysis where gaps and opportunities existed in retention and or promotions for our diverse population that was there at Cisco. Yep. So NGL, it stated here, is an innovative leader development approach where managers and their long-tenured, diverse employees embarked on a 6-month journey to embrace differences, unlock talent, and foster disruptive thinking to emerge as courageously confident and distinct leaders who know the exponential value they bring to Cisco. So with that, I don't know about you, but have some other things to share, because the young lady that was there doing the facilitation, one of the young ladies that was there doing the facilitation that we were using her material was Trudy Bijwar from Center of Workforce Excellence, and African-American young female who really wanted to see leadership excellence in corporate and had been around for a number of years doing training, speaking, strategizing, being a consultant and coaching as well. And so I don't know about you, Carlo, but that first day that we were in there with our managers, and I really began to find out what we were going to be talking about. Like, okay, am I ready to be this transparent and have what they call now courageous conversations with my manager, who happens to be a white male, and most of our managers were white males that was in that training during that time. And so it's Hispanic, and our cohort was Hispanic and African American at the same time, but majority of our leaders, I believe, were white males. And so when the facilitator first started the conversation around what we were going to be doing and began to share her own stories as far as some of the things she had gone through as far as stereotypes as far as African American women and some of the racial biases that had gone on. And she started sharing her story about being the good Black girl. And I was in my seat, Carlo, and I began to cringe. At that point, she began to share her story. Actually, I became very emotional, because she was talking about how she was a good Black girl in corporate America, but she wasn't a part of the Go Boy network. So she can be the good black girl. She was able to get her education. She was able to work hard, go above and beyond, but she still wasn't recognized, still wasn't promoted, wasn't given certain opportunities, or someone was given that opportunity over her, right? And not only to have to deal with that, but we started dealing with the stereotypes for the hair and the skin color, everything. So when that young lady went through that piece, I was like, I want to raise my hand like in church, tip out. Because I was saying, I don't know that, first of all, I want to have this discussion at work, but I don't know that if I want to be that vulnerable, with everyone in this room that I don't even know. And at that time, even with my manager, and I didn't know what to pull up certain emotions because I didn't know how I was going to respond to certain questions or conversations. And you know how it goes, we have to make sure as African Americans in corporate that we are putting on the right face,
Composed.
that we're not too aggressive, as a black female or a black, we're not too aggressive. So we have to make sure we're doing this delicate balance. So it was a challenge for me at first. Talk to me, how did you feel when you first got introduced to what we were going to be doing over the next 6 months there?
Yeah, that was a great explanation of the emotions and of the scenario, right? So my director called me in the office and said, "Hey, you've been, nominated for this training. You're going to go with your manager." But that was really all the details I had, right? It was basically saying, "Hey, are you willing to commit these 6 months to this initiative?" Right? Right. And I have a whole nother perspective after doing the training, where I encourage everybody I know that looks like us to go do it. But going in, I had no clue. And so, like you said, we sat down in that first day and we saw the raw emotions that the facilitators were providing, but everybody was hesitant that first day, right? Where it's like, how open and honest can I be with my manager sitting right next to me and other senior leaders in the room with you, right? How truthful and how honest can you be with your story? One thing that since that training that during my MBA program, I took a class and we studied some of Brene Brown's work, right? And she talks heavily about vulnerability, right? And I think that training mixed with understanding and reading her book and just getting more knowledge and becoming more self-aware, it opened me up to be more vulnerable and be more honest and be able to approach those tough conversations, right? And so during the NGO training, one thing they did that was a great exercise was the fishbowl, right? Where they're going to bring up a topic that's going to be maybe not controversial, but it's going to incite emotions in most people, right? And they're going to have maybe 10 chairs around. And if you're sitting in that chair, you can be part of the conversation. If you're outside of the circle, you have to listen. And if you want in, obviously you tap somebody on the shoulder, you hop in, and you get to join the conversation. And as the training went on, we started to see more people rushing to get in and have the conversation versus sitting out, right? We started, I made some really amazing relationships during those conversations, during that training.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and you met during that training, right? I mean, we were in the training together, but we met at lunch during one of those days, right? And I heard you talking about your passion for giving back to the community, and I heard you mention Progress Village. And so something clicked in my head, and I said, Sanders Progress Village. Hey, do you know a Dwayne Sanders? Because I graduated with him from high school, and it just feels like the world isn't that big where there's many Sanders in Progress Village who don't know each other. And you're like, yeah, you're like big Sanders or little Sanders. I was like, if he's around my age, I'm assuming probably the younger one. You're like, yeah, that's my nephew. And so, having opportunities to sit in those rooms with other like-minded individuals that are striving to be successful in their careers, it's impactful, right? We learned a lot in the training, but then also we're able to make new friends, new relationships, new networks, and then that helps us expand in the company. People in Cisco I don't know, and vice versa, right? So we can lean on each other to help each other through, whatever we're trying to do next with our career.
I love that when you're talking about the fishbowl, because some of the topics that, they were some challenging topics to get in to the fishbowl and talk about, how you want to be recognized or identified as. And that was great when we were talking, and I'm like, Progress Village. You're like, oh, I grew up in Riverview, and I went to Riverview High. You mentioning Dwayne, and I was like, this is crazy. It's such a small world. So of course I circled back with my nephew, and I was like, Junior, guess what? Guess who I met? So I definitely definitely let him know that you're going to be on today. So I'm sure he'll try to tune in if he's not already tuned in. And I was like, yeah, let the people know that Carlo is going to be on interviewing today so they can come ask you some tough questions.
Yeah. Set me up.
But
Right?
Carlo, I think the other thing as well, one of the things I think we both can't remember the name, but we did this wall. I think it was the first day.
First day, yeah.
And I'm sharing this with you, Facebook fam, because there are many companies out there, and I definitely love working for Cisco Systems, and the engineers that I've had on work at Cisco Systems. And there's been a lot of opportunities that we've been blessed with and given being a part of this company, but it's value that we bring to Cisco as well as Cisco giving back to us as well. Right. And so the leadership opportunities and trainings that we've had has been tremendous. And I'm sharing these things because it's stuff that we can use in our regular lives and everyday lives. And so we were dealing with with stereotypes, right, and racial biases, unknown biases, right, and how people react and respond to people when they see them without a word being said. We as people make a quick judgment on people based on skin, based on hair, based on how we talk, how we sound, how we look, what we drive, what we wear. I mean, there's so many unconscious biases and things that go to play with the person making up their mind about you without even talking to you. And so I remember the first day we did this wall exercise, and we all had these stickies, right? And so they put up there, like, they had the titles, Facebook family, YouTube listeners. They had like black male, black female, white female, Hispanic male, Hispanic female, Asian, I believe, Asian male, Asian female. So I'm not sure. I think that covered the gamut, right? And so
they had like military, they had veteran, they had disabled individuals, and then they may have had the LGBTQ as one of the options as well.
Yes, as well. So we had all those sheets up there on the wall, and we had stickies, and so we were given instructions saying, okay, when you see those titles, what comes to mind immediately? So it wasn't about you trying to be politically correct. It was like, when you see those titles, what comes to mind? Be it your own that's coming internally based on what you've learned and what you've been taught, or what you've seen on television, whatever, put that up. And I thought it was amazing. And I'm going to focus specifically on these areas because I'm talking about Black men in tech, Carlo. So when we went up to the board, and then I'm a Black female, so I'll share our side, but we went up to the board, and as I began to look at things on the board, it was a thread that that was going on relative to our Black men, and I'll say our Black females as well. Can you share with our audience today, what are some of the things that were put up on the board by, it was about 40 of us. I don't know how many was in the class.
About 40 people,
about 40 of us in the class.
20 individual contributors with about 20 managers with them. So, I mean, the number one that sticks out is athletic, right? I think that was the number one option that they had up there, or athlete, some form of that answer. I'm trying to think. Strong. It was so many athletes, in that space that it was super shocking. Just, here they work at a multinational corporation with a decent sized Black population, and that is literally the first word that a lot of people put up there. And if you remember any other ones, please share. But I know that was the one that stuck out and that we had a lot of conversation around.
Yeah, athletic. The other, I thought it was something like a deadbeat dad. I don't know how it was coined.
That was up there.
Yeah, but basically, an absentee father. I think that's what it was. Like an absentee father. So the general stereotypes that we would hear about our Black males, absent in the home, like you said, athletic. And I don't know if it was any other. I'm trying to remember some of the other things, but just the general stereotypes that we've been given, or our Black men have been given. You can see those listed in that order. And it was disheartening. It was emotional. I know as a Black female being in there, I'm like, gosh, they're attacking our Black brothers. I mean, and when you look at the white males, you see like lawyers, doctors, and I'm like, well, why we can't be a doctor? Why can't we be a doctor?
Another one up there I remember now is like scary / intimidating, right? That was up there too.
Yeah.
And, what was interesting was, under like the veterans, they had like trustworthy, responsible, et cetera. So I remember asking the class this question. I said, hey, both my parents are military veterans, right? So if my dad walks in here right now, do you see him as the trustworthy, responsible guy, or the deadbeat, athletic, scary guy, right? Which one do you see when you have, that intersectionality between two of those paradigms, right? And so I think people were quiet after that question, right? There was some conversation around it, but I vaguely remember that because it's just like, which direction do you go in when you're stereotyping people based off something, right? If you walked in here in street clothes, you wouldn't know he was a veteran, so you would assume one thing about him. But if he came in a full uniform, does your mind just shift automatically to say, oh, that's a trustworthy guy because he has on that uniform? And it was a very, very powerful exercise to kind of see how all of our minds work, because even though I know this conversation is focused on the Black men, there was one thing that was interesting to me that stuck with me after the training was also under the Asian males, they had smart, good at, math, and the Asian guy in the class said, hey, I don't like that stereotype, because that means every room I walk in, I have to now be the smartest guy. I have to know everything. And if I don't, now I'm not living up to what everybody holds as the stereotype for my race, right? And so I found that very intriguing. That really stuck with me, because I was like, man, if you look at ours and yours, I bet a lot of Black men would be loved to be, hey, that's your stereotype, you're a smart guy, you're good at math, but that's not what that bothers you, because that's okay. It's okay that it bothers you. It was very intriguing.
I think it's like the pressure that it puts on to be able to live up to those stereotypes, whatever they might be. And I think, as we finished that class, which it was a tremendous class, it was tremendous learning. And I think even myself, I learned about my own unconscious bias when it came to different races as well. So it was a point allowing me to even check my own self, and I would think about my own biases as a Black female in corporate, and some of the challenges I've gone through, told that, it wasn't in the cards for me to be in leadership or management, or I was too aggressive, then I needed to tone things down. But if it was a male, especially a white male, that I was in the same room that did the same thing and had the same kind of suggestion or opinion or disagreement, it wouldn't be seen. I've seen we were able to put up those biases and look at them and talk them through. And then I remember one conversation about the athleticism of Black, men. We're like, why is it that our Black, you just put an athlete? The only thing we can do is bounce a ball or throw a football. Are you serious? And so I remember one of the team members there said, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with that? And I remember, and it was so eye-opening to everybody. And I think with that gentleman, I remember it was like profound to him. And I remember he said, I would like to be considered, athletic. They make a lot of money, et cetera. And so the facilitator said, yeah, but when we go back to slavery, think about how our people we were auctioned off. It was about how we look, the physicality of our men. That's how we were sold to work on land, due to slavery. We were sold like that. And so it was a whole different vibe when that was explained, and shared, that it's always being monetized based on what we can do. We can dribble the ball, but we can't think. And I think we had that kind of situation happen not too long ago, from when we had Trump in the White House, a statement being made, to LeBron, basically he just needs to dribble the ball, but he's created school systems and given back to the community, but now he doesn't have an opinion. So the only thing he can do is dribble a ball. So shut up and dribble the ball, right? So it was just I wanted to bring that out, because that's where you and I had an opportunity to meet, Carlo, and that was a blessing. We were able to have great conversation and deal with some very serious and emotional issues, and really look at how we move in corporate and what we can do as it relates to the stereotypes that's been assigned to us and the stereotypes of other races and how we treat them, and learning, like you said, for the Asian guy, he doesn't want to be considered smart. He has to be smart all the time, and maybe he's not smart.
That's a lot of pressure, right? Like always having to be the smartest guy. I will say that training really helped my career, right? It changed the course. I moved into new roles after that training. Literally, I think after the 6 months, like the next week, I was on a new team, right? And I was going through that process. I applied to MBA school during that time. And as soon as I think it was after the first or second session, I started reaching out to, folks I've known in the company for a while who I knew hadn't done the training. like, hey, I need you to get in here. This is whatever it takes. And I started reaching out to the facilitators that were actually managing the list and said, hey, how do I get this person, this person, the people I know. And I've seen some of them go through the training and get promotions, get management positions. So it's impactful. It opens your eyes. It opens your sphere of influence as far as who you have access to. And it just helps you approach things differently, right? And so I'm extremely happy I was able to, I was selected to go to that. It was a fun experience.
Oh yeah, it was tremendous. It's been a tremendous learning and a growth. I think some of the other things that we learned about strategy, the things we learned about emotional intelligence, and it was kind of 3 areas, like know yourself, choose yourself, and give yourself. So talking about dealing with emotional intelligence, and that everybody has emotional intelligence, but you got to use it. You got to, some of the things that called it, so tune in, notice your feelings and reactions. And it said here, get off autopilot, be present, and talked about how you respond instead of reacting. Give yourself a moment to de-escalate and evaluate the options before you just quickly respond. And then the last one, it talks about here, connecting. Remember what's truly important to you, consider others, and then move forward with those in mind. And that would give yourself. The other respond would choose yourself, and tune in was know yourself. And so it was so many things we learned. I remember when we did the one-pager, and that's something that helped me as well. The one-pager, where we were able to pull in all of our experience and expertise, work, family, and community, and our talents, the things that we like to do, into one page and tell our story. So I really love that, because that helped me to consolidate my experience over the years and be able to send that out for job opportunities, which I ended up landing another management role as well, because I was able to better tell my story from a professional perspective, and not only just show my professionalism, my experience, my certifications, but hey, this is Michelle. I do, talk shows, I do things in the community, I give back. I like to entertain and act and sing. So you have other points to be able to talk to people about. So that was helpful for me as well.
So anytime I meet a new leader or a mentor, our first conversation, when they hop on the WebEx and we're starting the conversation, it's already up. So they're going to talk to me. I had a new senior manager, and he hopped in the room. He's like, hey, I just thought we were here to have a quick conversation. Oh, we will, but I want you to understand who I am. You've never met me. And so let me show you this quick synopsis of who I am, my career, what I plan to do. I have obviously a couple family photos on there, because that's, if you know me, that's extremely important to me. That's what matters most. So if you can't accept that, then, whatever team or opportunity you have may not be the one for me, right? And so that one pager is critical. And I think we should be teaching more of our people about those type of approaches and tools and techniques earlier on, right? I was 9-10 years in Cisco, learned about the one pager, and now I can use it. And it's not going to necessarily get you the next job, but it's going to be a great intro to teach the other person on the side of that interview or that conversation who you are. And another thing I learned coming out of there is be intentional, right? It's your career, and no matter how much talent you have, if you're not intentional about what you want and go execute on that, you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get what you deserve. They're not handing out opportunities here, right? It's all about you making the relationships, striving, being present, but also being aggressive when you need to be about an opportunity. And then to add on to your emotional intelligence, one thing I like to, talk to my kids about, and just in general, is just situational awareness, right? What is going on around you? Is this the time that you need to be blowing up about this situation, or is this the time you need to be calm? Thinking 3 steps ahead, what happens if you blow up here, right? And I'll just talk children, right? Hey, you're mad because I said no to something now. If you give me a bunch of attitude about it, now I'm gonna have to say no tomorrow and the next day, where you can just take the no today and then be good the rest of the week, right? And so I know that's a very simple, simple analogy, but if you take that same mindset into corporate America, like, hey, is this worth me blowing up at my manager about this small issue that's going to cause a ripple effect down the line, right? Or somebody you work with. It doesn't have to be management.
So Carlo, let's talk about it. Like I said, we've gotten into a little bit about, how we connected and some of the great learnings and the experiences from our leadership training there, and some of the opportunities that we've been able to get into because of that. And I think it's something I said last week. I'm like, learn all you can, sit on a can until it's time to use it, and then open the can. And, we always talk about knowledge being power, but I always say knowledge is power, but it's what you do with it that determines the outcome, right? You have to put it in action. And so we went through the training, we got to learn it, and then we began to apply it so then we can get a different result than what we were getting at that time. And so what I want to talk to you about now as we continue to talk here in conversation with Shelly is, how did you get into engineering, where your passion came from, your desire, and how did you navigate, through this field of engineering?
Yeah, so my passion probably came in high school. I used to love to just tinker with, building computers and any type of, software or trouble issue I hit, just not quitting until I solved the problem. And I had a good friend's mom, right when I was about to graduate high school, we were having a conversation. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go to college. I don't think it's for me, blah, blah, blah. She said, no, you're being silly. You're going to college. And her sister actually worked in the recruiting office at USF. She said, no, I'm getting you a packet. We're going to fill this out. We're going to submit it, and we're going to get you into USF, right? And so, I was like, all right, you've been a good, loyal friend to me, so I'm not going to say no. And so we did that. And I got that acceptance letter. I was like, all right, got to pursue this, right? Can't let her down, right? And so when I ended up going to USF, I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go. I enrolled I did computer engineering coming in, but I was also interested in the law and the criminology side. But that faded quickly. I started getting deeper into engineering and seeing that this could be a very lucrative and successful career. You just have to stay the course, right? And my little cousins used to joke on me all the time because it took me 6 years to finish my engineering degree, right? It wasn't 4, it wasn't 5, it was 6 years. I went to USF from 2003 to 2009, right? And some of that was me not understanding the difference between high school and college. High school, I won't say was easy, but I didn't have to put in as much effort, right? So I walked into USF with that same approach, and my first semester was all C's. And I was like, all right, well, this is not going to work. Something has to change. And you just can't have that same approach, right? And so then I had to, buckle down and there's some classes I had to take more than one time. There was some, it wasn't a cakewalk, right? But I believe if you want something in life, you keep fighting until you get it, right? And so that was my journey through USF. And then about my junior year, I had some really good friends who were in this program called Inroads, which is a minority internship program that truly tries to help, Black and brown people assimilate into corporate America, get them good job opportunities. But outside of just placing them in corporate America, there's trainings, right? There's monthly trainings, there's, regional trainings where they fly all the interns out to Tennessee the year. And 1 year was in Tennessee, 1 year was in Orlando. But they bring everybody together to really teach you how to move in the corporate landscape, because it's different, right? There's certain rules and regulations that are unwritten that somebody needs to show us all how to play the game, right? And so Inroads was instrumental for me. And here, going back to the not quitting, my first time trying to get in Inroads, they told me no. They're like, nope. I was like, okay. I had a couple friends that were actually Inroads interns, so I said, hey, put in a word for me. And there was a rep out of Tampa named Robert Boyd. Rest in peace to him. Was a great guy. Really helped me out and really gave me the opportunity. And honestly, without him, I don't know where my career in tech would be, because he just opened that door and gave me the opportunity. So I interned at MetLife out in New Tampa for a couple years. And then, funny enough, my mom lived in North Carolina, Durham. She was at a career fair for my younger sister's elementary school and met a gentleman named Lonnie Harris at a career fair. And she said, hey, my son is into, in computer engineer down in Florida. He would love an opportunity to work at Cisco. I mean, my mom was just, selling me up, right? So she got a business card from Lonnie. She got a business card from Lonnie and sent me the information. And it's interesting because I was listening to your last episode that you did last week, and the gentleman, Corey, said, hey, I give people my information. If they don't hit me up in 24 hours, they're not serious, right? So I went back and looked at some old emails recently, maybe about a month ago. And I think literally my mom sent me the information. I emailed Lonnie within like 10, 15 minutes. I was like, hey, here's my information. What do you need to know? And so he said, oh, you're an inroads intern. You need to talk to a gentleman named Wayne White. He's the inroads coordinator, right? So I hit up Wayne. I said, hey, Wayne, here's my information. I'm interested. And that summer they had, he was able to get 10 inroads interns, and I was one of them. And I was reporting to a manager named Daryl Gatson, which was another, a Black manager. And at that time, 2008, there probably wasn't a ton in Cisco, right? And so what was interesting is that Wayne and Lonnie worked for Daryl. And so I remember talking to Mr. Gatson, right, the first time. He said, hey, I got your resume. First question I have is, why is your GPA not on here? And my answer was, hey, my GPA is not the best, but I want you to talk to me first before you judge me just off of a number, right? Get to know me. There was some going to college, being alone, family moved away. I wasn't focused on school when I first came in, like I should have been, right? And so I'm getting better there. I'm trying to make, the best path forward for myself. We had a conversation, a good one, and he extended me an internship opportunity. And so 2008, that summer, I moved. My mom was living in Durham, so I moved in with her for the summer and worked out at Cisco, 40 hours a week, and just trying to learn the game and understand how not just corporate America, but technology and building relationships. And I still talk to Daryl Gatson and Wayne White and Lonnie to this day, and they're very instrumental on the success of my career as well. And Wayne is probably the mentor I talk to most. We probably check in every week, and we have to have representation in the management position so that they're giving people that look like us an opportunity, right? If somebody would have came in with a better resume and better experience and skill set, cool, they beat you out, but at least you're getting the opportunity because they recognize the talent that comes from people that look like them. And so,
hey, you know what, Carlo, what is amazing that's sitting here, because like last week when I was talking with Renee Daltrey and Corey Kirkendall, and like I said, I was a part of that team at Cisco back in the 90s when we started Cisco Black Professional. That's what it's called today, but it was CBIN.
CBIN.
And it was started at another, I think it was in San Jose, and we were like, how can we get it here in RTP? We need to do something here. And we started CBIN there, Cisco Black Employee Network there. And everyone that you're mentioning was a part. Those guys, I go back with those guys, and it's just tremendous to see the result of the things that we were having the discussions about. And so with Wayne and with Lonnie, actually Wayne is going to be on, and Lonnie, I've reached out to him as well. And I remember Daryl Gatson as well. So it's just amazing that all of those individuals during those times, we would have our CBIN meetings and talking about what we can do. And Wayne was like, inroads, I need to do this. I need to get some more African Americans in. So he was actively working that, and you're a result of those conversations and everything, because we were saying, how do we get our African American brothers and sisters into these jobs, right? And how do we educate them and talk to them about how you navigate? And I think Corey mentioned it last week, cracking the corporate code. How do you navigate in corporate so you can make sure you're making the right decisions, networking, moving the right way, having the right kind of conversations, connecting with the right people, so you can be able to perform and have forward movement within the company? And then how do you deal when you have those challenges in, as you said, the right way, using your emotional intelligence, so that way you don't get fired or put on an improvement plan.
Angry Black man coming out, right? Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because the names you mentioned, like Renee Daughtry, for example, right? He was on your last episode. Me and him, we worked hand in hand for 4 or 5 years. He was my project manager when I was in my last group under Solution Validation Services organization doing testing, right? Me and him worked every day together, right? And what he speaks on about impacting the youth and being in the community, I saw it firsthand every day. Every chance he got, he brought a new class of students into the Cisco campus, took them on tours, educated them, asked brothers like myself and other ones within the company to come speak to them. And I reached out to him for my little cousin who wanted an opportunity when he was in high school, unpaid internship, and it worked out, right? He was able to come in, learn the ropes, learn about Cisco. And it's really, when you have people who exude that passion for the youth, you have to lean into them, right? Like he's so established in the community, from like North Carolina A&T and the local high schools, the local middle schools and elementary schools, that, it's our duty to help him be successful with that, right? In my opinion. To give, if he says, hey, Carlo, come talk to them for 5 minutes. Hey, can you give him a lab tour? Yep, sure can. Because I want to make sure I'm not necessarily leading some of these initiatives, but I want to give back when people ask me to be a part of them. And it's yeah, that circle. It's crazy because everybody knows each other, and if you build the right relationships, you can help each other within the company. And I'll add one more point. When I went to Melbourne for that year, and at about month 11, week 2, two more months before the year mark, Wayne hit me up on email and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity. I need you to go look into this one." Right? Daryl had a rec under him, and so Wayne came to me and said, "Hey, you can get back to North Carolina and get back to Cisco. Here's the opportunity." So it's not just putting our people into internships. It's also when things open up and there's opportunities for them to expand and grow and go to that next level, making sure we're reaching back and doing that for them, right? And I graduated 2009. We all know what was going on, the financial crisis. It was brutal. Jobs weren't there. But in 2010, there was an opportunity, and they didn't forget about me. And I appreciate it, dearly.
That's awesome. One of the things you mentioned, Carlo, about your 6-year stint in finishing at school. So talk to me just about some of the challenges that you've experienced in moving through your career, some of the companies that you've worked with, and some of the challenges that you've had. If you want to speak from just a male standpoint, African American standpoint, some of the challenges and how you navigated through those challenges.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I mean, it's when you come into a company young, there's going to always be things you don't understand, right? It could be anything from the dress code or to the work from home policy. I mean, things are changing now where companies are a lot more open to that. But I remember when I was coming in and I was doing like maybe 2 days work from home. And Wayne hit me up on the side. He said, "Hey man, drop that down to 1. You need to be visible. You need to be seen. You need to be present." So, okay, good, cool, good advice, right? It came from a good place. It came from honesty, right? Where he's like, "You're still new. You're still learning the game. People need to know who you are," right? And I believe Renee said it best, right? It's not who you know, it's who knows you, right? And so that kind of hit on that that point with me, and I was like, okay, cool, because I didn't notice that it was an issue. But that's why when you have brothers who have your back and they're saying, "Hey, Carlo, that's one thing." I've seen issues where you may not agree with one major thing I think is you have to understand that change in corporations is going to happen daily, weekly, monthly, and you have to just be ready and adjust for it. I think that's one thing I struggled with was, hey, I have a new manager today that I didn't have yesterday. Hey, I have, new responsibilities, or, the role is changing, or you want me to do something different than, I was doing last week. And I think just having to adjust to that and understand that that's always going to be corporate America. Nothing stays the same, especially technology. Technology is evolving daily. So that's just an area where you have to just be ready for that and just have an approach and just a game plan, right? Just sit down, pay attention to the landscape, and just be 2 steps ahead of what's coming. And then maybe one of the other challenges is not understanding that these certifications matter when you're in a technology company. They can open different doors, right? I used to, one of my roles, I was in a lab working, and I had a lot of co-ops and interns, and I would talk to them. And they're like, "Hey, you studying for cert this, that?" I was like, "Nah, just on the job training's working. I'm learning what I need here." And then I saw I was hitting a wall, and I was like, "Man, I can't make it to that next level. What is going on?" And I promise you, the day after I passed that CCIE, they were like, "Hey, Carlo, we got a testing opportunity up in Chicago for 2 weeks. You want to fly up there and do that? We need an engine." Just everything shifted once you show them that you're willing to put in the work, you have the technical acumen, and that you're going to go get it done, right? Because those certifications aren't easy. But if you put in the time, the energy, and the effort, then once you become successful with the completion, and they say, "Hey, now you have your CCIE number, you have your CCNA, you have your CCNP," then more opportunities open for you. So it was, I had the wrong approach originally, like, "Oh, I don't need that," but and some people make it without it. Don't get me wrong, but for me, it helped.
Right. Yeah. Carlo, I really like where you're going and the things that you're saying here, especially it's all about work ethic, right? And having a certain kind of work ethic when it comes to whatever you approach in life. And if that's in corporate, if that's in business, that's in dealing with, community, friends, family, et cetera, it's just having that work ethic and that follow through. And I think when I'm listening to you, I think about the work ethic that I gained as a young girl, watching my mom and my dad, here in a middle class or a neighborhood, some would call it that. We called ourselves the first Black suburbs. We had, a little cinder block home with 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. It was 7 of us in the house. But sometimes I'm in the house with my family now. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we manage in here? But we didn't know we had what we needed, right? Yeah. But and my dad was in the Air Force, as well, here, MacDill Air Force in Tampa. But I remember work ethic. I remember my mom and dad working day in and day out on a regular job, and at night, cleaning up hotels. And my mom worked at a hotel at the front desk and managed a supervisor. But at night, she was able to secure the contract with my dad. Her and my dad and my siblings would be in there working. I was in the car sleeping, picking up money from the, plant because I was really little. But then learning, getting up in the morning, Saturday, cleaning up, cleaning your room, doing your chores, connecting even when it came to church and follow through on certain things. I remember just watching my parents' work ethic, and they did what they had to do to take care of us, which instilled certain things in us. So things I didn't want to do coming up, she made me participate in and made me do, or my dad made me follow through on things because I knew it would be in life. She said in life there would be things that you don't want to do, but you have to do, right? Yeah. And I know we run into that at work at times. Like you said, learning a mind shift, mind change, it may not be what we want to do, but it's what is necessary for us to do to make those adjustments and take that sacrifice and move to that next level. So I say that because I hear you're working, you're learning how to navigate in corporate, but you also see what is necessary for you to move to that next level, and you take the step to do that. And it's like I've talked with a number of the engineers that have come on, Randy, and with Ryan and Renee and Corey. It's like that getting those certifications takes a lot of time. It's a lot of study, that outside commitment outside of your 8 to 5. Yeah. Being a father, being, a husband, and then, it's a sacrifice to the family as well to be able to study. Those who are getting those certs during, when they have a full-blown family, it's a lot of sacrifice. But you do it, and then the reward comes after. And so I think what I'm saying is just a Facebook fam, anything that is worth getting, it's worth putting in the time, the work ethic to go and get it. It doesn't mean it's going to come easy, but there is a reward. There is a reward for being able to do it, even if it's just a point of you being able to say that I did it,
Yeah, and one piece of advice is do it before you have kids if you're young. If you're young in your career, make that a focus early in the career before you have kids, because your time is not your time anymore, right? So I was able to finish it before then, but it's also, like you said, it's a small piece of bragging rights, right? Where, not everybody's walking around with one. And CCIE is relevant to our field of work, right? We work at Cisco, we're in the networking field, but whatever field you're in, what is the level of certification you need that can help you, right? Because you got to realize everybody's coming out of school with the same degrees, different universities. What is going to put you above that next individual, right? Where did you intern? What certs did you have? What experience do you have? What are you doing in the community? All that, people look at all of that, right? And even when I went to Harris Corp, there was a career fair out at USF. I went there with my resume and said, hey, I'm interested in testing. They're like, testing? Nobody comes in here asking about that. They put my resume to the side, and then they saw I had that internship testing experience at Cisco. I didn't even talk to nobody that day. About a week later, somebody called me and said, hey, we'd like to bring you out for an interview. They're like, nobody asked about testing. It's not something that is generally taught, say, in school, like being a test engineer. But I learned that from, the Cisco experience. So, all your experiences accumulated can help you produce, who you are today, right? And I try to stress that to people I talk to, like, hey, that job, you took that role in Cisco or whatever company you're in, you didn't like it, but that's okay. You learned something there, I guarantee it. And you'll take that into the next role with you and the next one. And it's all an accumulation, right? There's a reason you have these certain paths and steps to get where you're at in your career.
Yeah. Carlo, I was actually getting ready to take a break, but we're in such a flow. So that's why I hadn't taken a break earlier. So I hope you have some water and everything there, but I just think we're in a good flow. And so I'm going to forego the break just because we're in a really good flow and I don't want to interrupt that. So if you're good to keep going, then we're going to keep going.
The kids aren't screaming and the wife's not yelling, so I'm good to keep going.
All right. So Facebook fam, you guys that are out there, if you have any questions, please list area so we can continue to have this conversation with Corey. We're talking about Black men in tech, and Corey is telling his story as a young man and his experience, from going to college. And what I love is the impact of the community. And it's like, it takes a village. We hear that thing about it takes a village, right, to raise our children. And, you were talking about your friend that shared something with you. You're like, I don't know college for me. But that person pressing you and saying, yeah, let's go get it. I know someone in the recruiting field. Let's get you the application and help you fill it out. And that's each one reaching one. I think that was part of it last week as well, Renee, saying that you have to reach back and help somebody else. You have to help steer or at least challenge the young mind today. And I think today our young people, it's so much going on. It's so much competing for their attention. And they're so creative and they are so intelligent. And it's like, man, how do we steer all of that energy into the right path, right? So they can have a successful life and successful career. And yeah, there are going to be some bumps and roadblocks along the way, but there are ways that you can navigate through those roadblocks and not stay with the wrong crowd. If you get with the wrong crowd, it doesn't mean you have to stay with the wrong crowd, right? You can always make a different decision every moment God gives us a breath in this life. You can make a decision to do something different. It's not a sentence to say, okay, I came from this kind of background. I came from poverty, or I came from a single family, an environment, or just a single mother, or sometimes with, a single father, or I didn't have anything, or I couldn't go to college. That you're talking about certifications, and those certifications you can get outside of going to a 4-year institution. You can get those certifications, right? So there's different ways that you can obtain knowledge, and I think we're out here and we share so many different things, and that's why I wanted this platform to be a platform. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that I can talk about that can arouse the guests and itch their ears, right? But I want to talk about things that's going to impact people's lives, right? That's going to help them see a story, someone weave their life through a story and realize that we have a Carlo here, a young man that had his challenges, but he navigated through those challenges, to be where he is today, a productive citizen, giving back to his community, making it happen for him and his family. So hats off to you, Carlo, for the impact you're making. As we continue on, how did you get, I'm interested to know, how did you get into, because you're a sales engineer, so that's different. So there's different types of engineers, as we were talking about in the IT industry that we're in, the tech industry, right, networking. So how did you get into the sales engineer, systems engineer? Talk to our Facebook fam and our YouTube listeners about the difference in those type of roles.
Yeah, so going into sales was twofold, right? One, I wanted to grow my business acumen, right? I felt I was in my past organization for about 8 years, and I learned a lot about the testing side, but I didn't really understand some of the business side and actually how we sell to our customers as a large, organization, right? And there was a ramp up period, obviously moving from the services side of the company to the sales side. And if I'm being 100% honest, the second piece of it was I had a buddy who was in sales, said, hey, the money's better over here. And so that piqued my interest, right? I'm like, all right, there's opportunities where you can be engineer, you can be technical, but you can also provide more for your family, right? You can provide for yourself, and you can, we all want to survive, right? And it's like, hey, I'm in the same company. I love Cisco. I don't want to go anywhere, but there's opportunities over here. So now the key difference is I work with customers on evolving their current technology infrastructure, right? And so one thing you'll see is like during COVID, a lot of us had to go virtual. So we had a lot more WebExes. We had a lot more strain on the network, where typically you're doing your meetings in the office, right? And so everybody's huddled around a conference room table. There's no bandwidth meeting. You don't have 30, 40, 50 people connecting to a video conference at the same time. A lot of corporations weren't ready for that uptick in bandwidth and utilization and just needs that they didn't have. And honestly, Cisco wasn't ready at the beginning of the pandemic either, right? We sprung into action, and we had some, top level engineers expanding our infrastructure so that we could support these customers, right? If you go back probably week 1, week 2 of the pandemic, we had a lot of TAP cases, which is our technical support. We had a lot of issues there just from capacity, because you go from 10 people being on to 10,000. You have to have the scale for action, expanded the network, expanded the infrastructure, and we were able to stabilize that. But a lot of customers needed to do the same thing, right? And so they'll come to my organization. I work in a North Carolina team that does commercial sales. So I have 8 customers, medium to large enterprise commercial customers. And we'll work through technology specs, pricing, just seeing what they need, right? We're there to assist them and talk them through where they want to grow their organization, not 1 year, but 5 years out. Where are we trying to go? I don't want to sell a customer something that they're going to need to get rid of in a year, right? Where are we trying to go 5 years out, and how can Cisco help you? How can we help you get there?
So, you mentioned WebEx, and I think on the last, when I was talking with Brian, he was talking about the surge and having to support as a part of the WebEx, the support team to address some of the customer issues. So that's the platform that we're actually on right now, that we're coming to you. Conversations with Shelly is the WebEx platform by Cisco. And as you said, it is a video conferencing, platform where you can do the messaging, video calls, the things that we're doing right now. Breakout rooms, collaborating in certain spaces, whiteboards, et cetera. All of that we can do here within the cloud, right?
But you know what's interesting, right? Not all of those features, but some of those came because of COVID, right? We saw we needed more of those functionalities, the breakout rooms. The whiteboards was there, the chat was there, but WebEx is evolving every day with new features and functionalities for that specific reason, because we see the need. And there's some corporations, right? They're pushing people to get back into the office, where other ones are like, hey, this hybrid approach is working. Our people are more productive, they're happier, and they enjoy what they're doing. Right. We're not rushing you to get back in, so we just need to make the video experience as good as or better than the in-person experience.
Yeah. And I know, like you said, a lot of companies are choosing to continue that hybrid model, or choosing not to go back into the office at all, and save from a facilities cost as well. So it's interesting to see the benefits, even though COVID-19 is definitely horrible, this pandemic that it has. But it's amazing, the human spirit and how everyone comes together to make things happen. Like I said, so our kids can learn, so we can continue within our economy, so businesses continue to thrive. And a lot of businesses were created and developed, because of this pandemic. So it's just amazing that things can be so trying and challenging, but it's always a light at the end of that tunnel, that even when darkness comes, that light can overshadow it. And so it's just been a tremendous loss, I would say, according with the pandemic. But at the same time, it's been a blessing, because as human beings, we have come together in a different way that I believe, if it had not been for that happening, we wouldn't have at this time anyway. Talk to me a little bit about who are your mentors, Carlo? Who do you look at? And I know you mentioned Wayne White being one, but any other mentors that you look at for your life, and not just in the tech area, but any area of your life?
Yeah, so specifically to Cisco, right? When I moved over to sales, I reached out and found some directors that were outside of my organization to kind of learn the ropes, piggyback some ideas, just kind of learn the framework of being a sales engineer and what they look for in successful sales engineers, right? Because the ultimate goal is, hey, I'm moving into this job, but I need to be thinking about what the next one is and the next one, right? And just have that evolution. Or, hey, I'm moving into this job, I want to stay here, but how do I get promoted? How do I move up? How do I become a better engineer? So I definitely reached out to a few folks within Cisco and went that route to just talk with directors, and also friends, family, right? Just depending on the topic of conversation, there's certain people I'll reach out to that I know have either researched or will give me honest opinion and feedback around that area. I also, I try to listen to some podcasts that are inspirational, or pick up books that, hey, may help me evolve. One I'm reading right now is Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And it's about the 2000 Olympic team, the rowing team, and going into that race, they had no shot of winning, but their mindset throughout that whole training season was, will it make the boat go faster, right? Every decision they made was contingent on, hey, will it help us win this race? And and I just started the book, but that's kind of the philosophy I'm trying to take in everything I'm doing is, hey, will doing this make me better at what my end goal is, right? And just continuing to strive and making sure I'm approaching every situation by looking at where the finish line is and how do I get there. So from the mentor perspective, yeah, and even like you, right? We last time I was in Tampa, we sat down, we had lunch, we talked, we had a great conversation, and I try to do that and build those relationships because I feel like everybody has a nugget of knowledge that I don't know and I want to know. So I'm reaching out to people trying to learn every day.
I like that when you're talking about the business acumen and developing those soft skills. That's one of the things that that's been a common theme as well. That you can have the engineering expertise and knowledge, but you have to be able to have those soft skills. Be able to communicate, be able to negotiate, be able to listen. Having those skills, knowing how to conflict resolution, how to resolve conflict and solve conflict. So being able to have those soft skills as well as the technical skills is definitely a plus when you're in the corporate environment. One of the questions one of our audience asked is, what are some helpful hints you would give someone when they are preparing to take the different level of certifications?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So on the certification level, to me, I had a 3-tier structure, right? You're going to have to do some reading. There's going to be some books you're going to have to pick up. You're going to have to watch some videos because there's organizations like INE, or even Cisco that will provide training information. And then the third is going to be hands-on labs, right? And so I had a combination. I was lucky because I worked at Cisco, so I had access to a lot of these resources. I was able to go grab the technology and build the lab out. If you don't work for a company where you're going to be able to do that, then there is going to be some organizations that will rent you lab gear. Basically, you buy some tokens and then you use a token for a certain amount of time. But to me, a mixture of those three. So if you're getting tired of reading the book, then you go get in the labs and start configuring some of that stuff you just learned. If you're like, hey, I don't want to configure, you go watch the video and watch and learn, and they'll walk you through. Because we all learn differently, right? And
yeah,
for me, if I want to learn how to do something, I'm going to YouTube real quick, right? And hey, what's a quick way to do whatever I'm trying to do? And I'll watch a 5, 10, 15-minute video. Then I may have to watch it again. And then I'm like, all right, I got it. And then I go execute on that, whether it's from, cooking or how to build something, right? And so for me, when I did the CCI, I took that 3-tier approach, right? I had a lab guide that I did on the physical hardware. I had the videos, and then I had some CCIE books that I read. And so sometimes, at midnight reading gets tiring, but hey, maybe getting on the computer and typing out some commands for an hour is not as, tiring or stressful. And find a mentor too, right? I was fortunate enough during that time that I had a couple people in my organization going through the same exam. So we would, one buddy of mine, we set up every Saturday. I had no kids, so 8 o'clock we would be there every Saturday. We'd go on campus and we'd study for 3-4 hours and just go through labs together, right? And we both end up passing 1 or 2 days apart. So you have my information. If you don't, we can get it to you. Reach out and I'll see. If I'm able to assist, I will, and if not, I can see. I have some resources, right? And we'll see the best way to help you out, because I want to see more people passing these certs and using them to get into the companies and making headway.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Like I told Renee and Corey and Brian and Randy, because I'm trying to set up a networking academy here as adult learning here. I'm partnering with Vision of Destiny. And so actually we went online last week and we already started one of our essential classes, IT Foundation classes, and we're getting the student to go through that. And so we're going to be moving through that entire networking academy here. And we're also working with the Blake High School here to get the academy in, and get that incorporated into their curriculum. So there's some steps that they need to go through Hillsborough County, but we're going to keep working to make that happen at Blake High School and look at some other schools as well. So I'll definitely be calling on you, gentlemen, when it comes to certain camps or trainings to help us out. So good stuff. Let me ask, Carlo, anything that you would do differently? As you navigated and moved through your career and looking back now, hindsight, anything that you would have done differently looking back as you built your career over the years?
Yeah, from the career standpoint, honestly, be more intentional early on, right? That was like coming out of NGL, the Next Generation Leader, that was the number one thing that stuck with me was you control your career, so be more intentional, right? And what I mean by that is, if hey, I would love to be in management, your managers need to know that early on. You need to have those conversations. because now you're putting the pressure on them to make sure that they're mentoring you, they're molding you, and they're providing you the access to the resources so that you can become a manager, right? If you want to move up in be a specific grade or do a certain type of work, you need to stress that to your leadership that that's what you want, because a good leader should be trying to facilitate their people and put them in the position they want to be in, right? And so for me, it was, the career was going well, so I was just kind of sitting back and doing the work, right? Where I think if I'd have been a little bit more aggressive early on, or maybe 3-4 years ago, things could have moved a little faster, right? And they weren't moving slow, but I just think aggression at the right opportunity can yield good results. So definitely do that, and then like the person that asked about the certs, get them early, because the typical progression is go get a CCNA, then build on that knowledge and get a CCNP, then build on that knowledge and get a CCIE. You can skip all that and just go CCIE. It's just going to be, a lot of knowledge building to get to that point. But if you can come in your first year as an intern or first year in a company and get their entry level associate cert, now you're on the right path where you keep growing, right? And every company has, different certs in the industry. The security field's big right now, with all, there's a lot of hacking, ransomware. So there's some security certs you can look at that are not just Cisco exclusive. And so just understand the landscape and where you want your career to go, and actually don't be afraid to take the risk. That's probably, number 2 is, jump out there and pursue something you're interested in. And don't be afraid of failure. I've been told no so many times about Cisco from outside coming in as a college intern. Once I was in, I've probably been told 4 or 5 times no on jobs I've applied for and interviewed for. You're not the right candidate, not right now, go learn this. And it's all about how you react, right? Hey, you say I don't have business acumen, you say, or it needs to be stronger. Cool, let me go get stronger at that, right? How do I do that? There's some internal courses, there's MBA programs, there's friends, there's colleagues. Hey, you're a director in sales. Help me understand business acumen. What do they mean when they say that? How do I look at these, these factors, and just continue learning, right? Once you stop trying to learn and evolve, that's when you become stagnant.
Yeah. I like that when you're talking about interviewing, because, there have been a number of positions that I applied to as well in my career at Cisco and didn't get those positions. But what I've done, and when I was managing a team of 18 engineers, one of the things I would go tell them is that I was encouraging them as they looked at their career journey and wanted to move into different roles, is when you go through an interview and if you don't get the position, go back and ask for feedback, right? Nice. Go back and get that feedback so you'll know what you can work on, so then you'll be prepared for the next time, because I guarantee you when that next interview comes, you can address those issues and people will ask you, okay, you're coming for this management role again, another management role. What did you do from your previous interview to make sure that you can qualify or be the candidate that we'll select for this job? And doing that work in between, getting that feedback and not taking it as negative, but taking it as a positive thing to work and build your muscle, your skill muscle in business, will help you get to that next level. Another question that came through for you, what would you say is the most gratifying part of your position and why?
Ooh, right now in my current position, so in my role, I'm what's called a systems engineer, and I work directly with an account manager. And how the structure works in sales is the account manager has an assigned number that they need to hit. It's let's say for the whole fiscal year, they need to sell XYZ amount. Let's use $10, right? And so as a systems engineer, I don't necessarily have a number like that. So my goal is to get that account manager to their number, do everything I can to help them, execute against any technical needs, from the customer standpoint. And so right now, like we have 2 weeks left in this fiscal year, right? So the everything shuts down in 2 weeks. We got to get everything sold, everything across the finish line. And so last year we were at the same point. My account manager was at like 98% up to that Saturday when everything cuts off, and I was able to get her to 101%. And I won't lie, I didn't think it would be that satisfying, but it was extremely satisfying, because it was the deal that got us across the line was something I put 6 months of effort in, going to the customer every day, building it out. And so that was really rewarding, and not just because it got her to plan, but the team recognized it, right? Leadership. And I think, you want to work for a company that recognizes your hard work and hopefully rewards it, but at least acknowledges it, right? Hey, we see what you're doing. We see the time and effort you're putting in. We see the energy and the sacrifice. And so that's probably the most rewarding since I've been in this new role. In my previous role, probably the most rewarding was I had a customer that I worked with for 5-6 years, a large enterprise, and they basically told me, hey, we won't put anything in our network until it comes through your testing organization, which by relationship was me because I was testing for them. And I was like, man, it just made me feel proud that, they saw the effort and the energy and attention I put into their, their network and their business that, they were, and even when I left that group, I got word that they renewed their contract with them, and I was extremely happy, not just because it's Cisco, but because I know I set some of that groundwork and that precedence for them to, respect and understand what we're doing for them to keep, basically we're testing items in our lab so that they don't hit issues in production, right? Anybody who's worked in technology or software knows that bugs happen, things don't go as they're planned. And so, my job is to make sure that happens in my lab and not in your network, costing you millions of dollars every minute. So those are probably the two most rewarding situations between both jobs.
All right, so I don't know, I'm asking for a little bit clarification here, but I'm going to ask you this question, okay, Carl? So the question came through, have you ever had a King Kong ain't got nothing on me moment in your field? So you understand that.
Honestly, probably interviewing for this sales job I'm in, because one thing I did is I reached out to people who made the transition between services and sales, and a lot of them told me, hey, you're probably not going to get it your first time. It's really hard to do. You gotta, there's just certain ways you have to move. And then when I, in that interview process, the first round was, hey, talk with your account manager and a couple engineers. All right, you did good. You made it to the second round. Hey, now prepare an hour presentation on this technology, pretending we're the customers. And I mean, they beat me up for an hour in there, man. And I was sweating and nervous. And then even after that, one of the engineers was like, hey, I want to talk to you again. So I had another hour call with that engineer. But the feedback I got from the team after that made me feel like, man, even if I don't get this job, man, I'm heading in the right direction. I can do this. Just keep pursuing it. Because they're like, you're just cool and calm under pressure. We were trying to get you rattled. You didn't rattle. And I sometimes you don't know how you come across until people tell you that. And that goes back to Michelle's point of getting that feedback after an interview, because then now you're going to know, you want to know what you did well and what you did bad, right? Or you can improve on. And we all have areas to improve on. And so that would probably be the closest moment to that question.
All right, that was my brother asking that King Kong ain't got nothing on me moment. Good stuff.
It's funny because have you guys seen the Space Jam movie? That line's in there and it's pretty funny. So.
So I haven't. It came out. I know my nephews and my niece, they went to see it yesterday. I didn't go see it, so I'm out of the loop right now.
my kids, I think they're on watch number 3 now. So if they weren't, they're LeBron fans after today or after Friday we started. That's the time they watched it.
Good stuff. So, now, Corey, let me just ask, this is personal. What else do you do to have fun? We've been talking shop, we've been talking work, business acumen, certifications, training, education. You got this huge brain here, all this intelligence. You're bringing in making the numbers, getting across the finish line. What do you do for fun?
Yeah, so COVID's kind of put a damper on a lot of that right now, right? It's take the kids to the pool, take them to taekwondo, let them run around outside and play, travel to the beach. But, a typical year, it's a good amount of travel. We like to see the world and get out and explore. I truly love the stock market, been investing for a while. So, that's something I'm passionate about and enjoy, and try to, talk with people about that want to listen. And honestly, that's one of the things I'm happy about over the last year and a half or so, is that more people that look like us are starting to invest, starting to understand what it means to put money to work, return on investment, and just getting educated on the financial system. So I enjoy that. I enjoy cooking. 4th of July, pulled out the smoker, did some ribs and some pulled porks. Yeah, it's just, anything to keep active and a little bit of video games. Finally got my hands on the PlayStation 5, so do a little gaming here and there. But yeah, I'm pretty simple.
Good stuff. So, wow, I mean, we are at an hour, past an hour.
think it's an hour and a
Okay,
half
well,
if I know how to tell time. So
it does go fast. We get into the conversation and meet up, and it just goes like it does. This is tremendous. So I love it because that's what it's about, having a conversation and just being raw and real and sharing the experiences, and it's been tremendous. So, definitely I'm going to go ahead and bring it to a close. I'm going to check and make sure we don't have any more comments or questions on our Facebook chat here or on YouTube. But we're going to go ahead and bring it to a close. But before we do that, first of all, thank you so much again for honoring us to be our guest on Conversations with Shelly. It has been a tremendous conversation, Carlo, and I know the information, the experience, and just sharing your story has been impactful and has been powerful. And I know Facebook fam is going to share this across with their friends and family, because the information that you shared with us today is valuable and it's life-changing and it's impactful. So thank you for sharing your story, a little bit about the life of Carlo with us today. But before we go, any last thoughts or comments? I always like to give our guests this moment to share any last thoughts, comments, tips, encouragement, anything that you would like to share with our audience before we close Conversations with Shelly today.
Honestly, I'll keep it brief. Just don't quit. Whatever you want to do, keep striving, keep pursuing, right? Like, as we mentioned earlier, it took me 6 years to finish my undergrad. I never thought I would go back to college, right? And I'm 2 years into the MBA program. I've been working for the same company, 11 years now, and they've told me no at least 6 times. So, just keep striving and keep working towards what you want. Only you can beat you, right? So continue on that path. And if you need anything, reach out. I'm always willing to the game or advice or point you in the direction of the person that can. I'll gladly do that.
Carlo, that's tremendous. Thank you. I love that. That never give up and continue to pursue so you can accomplish your dreams and your goals. I love that. And basically your competition is yourself, right? You're the only person that can hold you back, right? So just go for it. I think take the limits off and keep moving forward. Thank you for sharing that. I'm definitely going to go back into this conversation and listen again like I did from the last couple of ones and put some notes in here, some of your quotes that you've stated, because you made some powerful quotes and referencing the books that you're reading, et cetera, because I think that's very key and important, and I'll tie those links in as well. And I'll definitely share your information and your LinkedIn information as well. So if any of our Facebook audience would like to reach out to you, they can. So again, as we get ready to bring this to a close, thank you so much for honoring us and being our guest today on Conversations with Shelly. Carlo, I have so appreciated and enjoyed this talk this afternoon. So Facebook fam and YouTube subscribers, we have talked about it, Black men in tech, and I tell you, we are on a roll. I am just so proud as a Black woman to hear conversations and hear our Black men come in and have conversations about the IT field, right? And we know that we have Black men in other fields and other industry, but I'm being a little biased because I'm in the IT industry, and when I'm working, as I work with Cisco, I've worked in other companies as well. I'm always so proud to see our brothers come into those organizations, move through, get hired in, move up the ladder, become directors and VPs, engineers. It's just so exciting to see our Black men blossom in corporate. And so that I've had the honor and privilege to interview you today, Carlo, has been a blessing to me. Continue to do what you're doing, continue to go after it. And I know you're going to continue to make a great impact in corporate and also in your community. So with that, Facebook fam, thank you guys for joining us. Again, the Conversations with Shelly. Remember that you can get us here at 5 o'clock p.m. on Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also now subscribe to YouTube, Soul Cafe RM, Real Ministries. That's what that stands for. Subscribe to Soul Cafe RM, or you can catch us on Facebook Live, Soul Cafe RM, and then also the replay, Conversations with Shelly on Facebook. So with that, we're going to leave you guys for this afternoon, and remember that I love you, but know that God loves you best. Until the next time, bye-bye.
Real and informative, different and refreshing. Conversations that relate to you. Welcome to Conversations with Shelly, live from the Soul Cafe, every Sunday at 5 p.m. on Facebook Live. It's Conversations with Shelly, with Shelly Sanders. She talks about everything: love, family, relationships, social issues. Get ready to dig in and talk back. It's Conversations with Shelly, live from the Soul Cafe, every Sunday at 5 p.m. on Facebook Live. It's Conversations with Shelly, with Shelly Sanders.